Good evening, this is Martin Bölter, and this is video number 16, I think it is. Yes, video number 16 of our little series, An American Experience by Martin Bölter. Now, this chapter is about the recent data on death in car accidents, that it actually increased in 2016 compared to the previous year. Now, there's a chapter in this book called Man vs. Machine, and one or two other chapters about a similar subject, goes in the same direction. And by the way, it starts on page 102. It's about driver assistant programs, gadgets, hardware, software, and all the good stuff. Now, I understand two things. The driverless car is coming, sooner or later it will be here, there's no question about that. The only thing they need to figure out is if a software program and the attached hardware to the car, which feeds into the software, cannot be held legally responsible for an accident or for a accidental death in a car crash or whatever you might want to call it legally and otherwise. Who can be? And up to that point, it's still going to be the driver. Always has been. I don't know if he or she always will be, but that's the status quo as of today. Now, when they figured out who is responsible if a driverless car crashes and somebody's hurt, or even it's only property damage in any way, shape, or form, who can be made responsible? The programmer of the software which is installed in the program. 1,000 possible outcomes, the million of factors involved. Okay, so right now the driver is the only one who can be held responsible for an accident because he/she is driving the car. Then we have forward collision warning. We have programs which warn us again when we change the lane, or when we fall asleep, or when we even look tired. What else? We have parking assistance of various sorts and kinds, adaptive radar cruise control and stuff like that. And there's a ton of things, night vision, oh my God. And you have to also understand in this whole war, men versus machines, that no car manufacturer can lack in that subject, especially if you put a big fat price tag on that vehicle. So we understand there is a competition in between car manufacturers. There is the need and the absolute actually necessity to develop systems like forward collision warning and install in the vehicles and move on from there. And of course, what it all leads to is the driverless vehicle. You summon your car, it's going to be coming from wherever it's coming from, underground garage, parking tower, is waiting in your driveway with your preferred settings as far as temperature is concerned, seating position, music, and maybe even the news, by the time you walk in the car or sit in the car and all that good stuff. And then it drives you where you need to be, you get out, and on the click of a button it parks itself, and vice versa, and the whole cycle repeats itself when you're ready to summon the car because you want to go home or go somewhere else, whatever have you. Within 2 minutes the car is waiting in front of the door. Boom, bang. Okay, so that's not a question that it's going to come. Only question is when. But you have to understand, and that's the major part until that actually comes, is that the driver is still responsible for maneuvering and driving this vehicle. There's no ifs, ands, and buts about it. And he or she is the only one who can be held legally responsible. So if there is a message in that chapter, the message is: do not trust assistance systems completely and utterly. Even when you back out of the driveway, back in the day, we just used to drive slowly, or if it was necessary to develop, to tell somebody, neighbor, passerby, stranger, whoever, whatever, who can tell me, you know, if it's all free to go and good to go. But mainly, you just back out in, you know, snail speed, you know, very, very slowly, looking in all directions all the time. That was the necessity when you back out of something, garage, driveway, whatever, you know, and stuff like that. So there's no denying. And when you drive on the road, on the Autobahn, you just have to be constantly aware. That's all there is to it. You know, you have to look behind you, have to look in front of you, you have to look sideways, you know, because you don't only account for yourself and what you're doing, you also have to account for everybody else who is near you, because you just don't want to hit by a car, by a bus, by a truck, by an airplane, submarine, by whatever have you, you know. So you obviously have to be responsible for your surroundings, you know, if you want it or not. But that was the standard back then. And I think it's kind of, you know, going a little bit in this, in the direction of, okay, the car is your cocoon, and as long as I'm in the car, nothing's gonna hurt me, nothing can happen to you, me, and whatever have you. And that's just not the case, you know, no matter how you turn or steer it, you know, that's just not the case. Somebody makes a mistake and crashes into your car, and chain reaction follows, and whatever can happen. So the message basically is, be a responsible driver, as the message really always has been in the last, since cars start driving, which is, you know, 125 years. So there's nothing new about it. But if you have all these gadgets being deployed by car manufacturers, and the death rate in car accidents still goes up, makes you wonder what the heck is going on here, that people cannot either employ the gadgets, or are overwhelmed by it, or don't know how to employ them to their benefit, or whatever have you. I don't really know what is going on. But of course, the advent of the cell phone and being available 24/7 a day, no matter what you're doing, no matter where you are, of course, I think contributed to that whole mess to a big degree. Because even if you're sitting in the car and talking to somebody else on the phone via the in-car system, you know, you have both your hands on the steering wheel and whatever have you, you're still distracted, you know, there's no ifs, ands, and buts about it, you know, that's just the fact of life, you know, unless you are able to really separate, or rather do two things equally good at the same time, which I don't think anybody can do. But be that as it may, still, my point is, you're distracted, no matter how safe the vehicle is, and you are still traveling with 50, 60, 70, 100 miles per hour. You're still driving this 2-ton hunk of metal, flesh, and bones down the road, and you still cannot stop within 5 feet and bring that 2.5-ton mass to a complete stop within 5 or 10 feet. This is still physics, and this is still not going to happen. So as long as you have a physical human body, that can happen. If you wouldn't be having that body, different story, but you do. So anyway, Men versus Machines, page 102, and this was a message to all the driver assistant gadgets in cars today. And the message is, be a good driver, or be the best driver you can be, because you are still the one who is responsible if anything goes wrong, nobody else. That's all.